Hi, I'm Mark McVeigh, a student here at Liberty University. And what I focused on in my thesis review was labor unrest in the Silver Valley of Idaho. And the reason why I did that is I've got an interest in that. I'm a great grandson of a guy who was in a operated in a failed business trying to mine in Idaho, and I just thought I think it's a very interesting subject. Um, the thing that I found reviewing the theses that I looked at is the number one thing is they're very left leaning or very pro labor. I wasn't really able to find anybody who had researched things from the company point of view or even the community outside of the miners' point of view on most of the labor unrest. Just thought it was kind of interesting how they viewed like a terrorist attack on the governor of Idaho, and they or ex-governor of Idaho who was had a bomb let off at his house, and just there were some running gun battles with some Buffalo soldiers in North Idaho during this period of time of the early 20th century and late 19th century. Um, the two main theses I looked at were one by a carpenter from New York University. Um, his methodology, the way he looked at things, is actually he wanted to he actually did a great job looking at court cases, which I thought was a very interesting way to look at it, and I hadn't thought of it. There would have been a gap certainly in my research if I hadn't come across this. Um, he looked through a lot of those cases, but one of the things he, I think, failed to do, or when he was looking, that leaves a gap open maybe for somebody to look at it from some other points of view, was he gave kind of a real brief um, background and history of how these mines got started and things like that. But that's very kind of middle of the road, just fact based dates and times. And then he gets into labor disputes, and when he gets into the labor disputes, that becomes more personal, and there are a lot of there's personal correspondence, there's the court cases and things like that. But most of the personal correspondence and even the articles that he relies on are actually tend to be focused on what I'd say are progressive or pretty left leaning or supporting of the workers' view of how they should be paid and things, and they may be completely valid. I'm not sure. But what I would like to see there is just some more research on what average wages were, how the miners were compensated compared to other people in the community and other people out west. I just thought that leaves some things open, but really did an excellent job of researching court cases and things like that. Didn't research a lot of um, company works other than to cite how the company employed spies and things like that once in a while with the unions. The next thesis that I looked at was pretty interesting by Phipps. It was a early 80s from the University of Idaho, and kind of really the same conclusions, but he relied a lot more on local newspaper accounts, whether they're in Kellogg or Spokane or Coeur d'Alene in that area, which I thought was good, and that's kind of what I had planned to do a lot of. He actually, when he did it, there were still a lot of people living that had lived through some of this labor unrest and things, so he actually was able to do a lot of personal interviews, which I thought were also really useful. Um, and then he also utilized some journal articles and things like that. I thought that was interesting. He also kind of came to the same conclusion too, that it was his thesis as well as Carpenter's was really that it was kind of it was progress as the unions got more and more leverage and were able to raise their wages and things like that, which again might be completely valid and things, but I would also like to see he relied a little bit on Hecla Mine's company papers, but not very much. There actually is a lot of information available from Hecla and the Bunker Hill mine. There's some good books on those companies, and their papers are all deposited at University of Idaho. So hopefully I'll be able to use those when I start researching this stuff. And then I actually looked at a master's thesis also, even though I'm not sure we were supposed to, but by Russell from Chapman University in Southern Cal. And what I thought was interesting there is he relied mostly on books rather than journal articles or primary sources, but it just gave a very good list of books. And although his stuff wasn't as in depth and things, I thought I got a lot of good information out of that as well. But all three authors really relied pretty heavily on going in thinking that this was 100%, a, that labor was always in the right and things like that. And I don't necessarily always doubt that, but I do think that things need to be looked at. There was a later Bunker Hill strike that I'd like to look at that, that took place in the 60s, where the labor wasn't very successful, and they were viewed pretty negatively by the community, which I thought was very interesting. And then finally, an unrelated industry in aluminum in Spokane, a large strike at Kaiser Aluminum really ended the aluminum industry in the Pacific Northwest, which had been the dominant industry in a lot of areas up here. And just the inability of labor and management to come together on that actually moved that industry overseas, and there really is no aluminum industry in the United States anymore. So I thought that was very interesting. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing what everybody else has posted. Thank you.